Welcome to the Good Divorce Show, where we can help you learn how to navigate the journey of divorce with less conflict, less debt, and equip you not to just get divorced, but also learn how to be divorced. Your host, certified divorce coach Karen McNenny, shares her wealth of knowledge, gets advice from other relationship experts, and interviews couples who learn how to have a good divorce, so you can too. Now here's your host, Karen.
Hello, listeners. Thanks for joining me again this week. I'm Karen McNenny, your good divorce coach, and we are here today to talk about how to just have more successful, high-functioning families post-divorce. And are you wondering, what's it going to be like when I fall in love again? What's it going to be like when my children's other parent falls in love? What's it going to be like if there's new kids that grow in our family? How are we going to navigate all of these new relationships and the complexity of a family that is growing beyond the bounds of our nuclear family that we were married? Well, you're tuning into the right episode because we're going to answer some of those questions today with Jeremiah Wallace. He has been a stepfather for over 10 years. I like to call them bonus parents. And he has been providing support and instruction for those that are also navigating the blended family experience. And his podcast for the last 9 years has been out there, given a shout out, finding a way to continue the conversation so that folks who are in these blended family situations have a place to turn to. Welcome to the show, Jeremiah.
Thank you so much for having me. I think as far as you recalled, I'm the first, whether bonus parent, step parent that you've had on the show.
Yep.
Hey, I am happy to hear that. I'm happy to be the first. I'll take it.
Yes, and long overdue. Will you remind people the name of your podcast and where to find that, Jeremiah?
Absolutely. You can find it on all streaming services. People tend to go to Spotify, but it is Navigating the Blended Family Experience. That's where I can be found.
And this idea of experience. And your experience, everyone's, of course, is unique. But would you just tell us a little bit about the family tree that you now live in and who all is connected within what you call the blenders?
The Blenders, yes.
Yeah.
I would love to. Yeah. So I got married at 25 years old to my beautiful wife. Her and her partner, they were never married. And so, it wasn't like on the other side of divorce or anything like that. But there was fortunately, I believe about a year period after they separated. And at that point, she was just a single mom, and her conviction was she would remain as such until her daughter was 18 years old because she didn't want the drama. And then I came walking in church looking like a stud, and she
I
was
can see it now. That's all you have to do is say, Lord, I'm good on my own,
that is
right? That
it.
independence, I'm
Exactly.
secure, I don't need. And when we are not in need, bounty shows up.
100%. So I walked in and I had no desire to be in a relationship myself either. So really, it was a platonic relationship through her siblings, actually. We did some ministry schooling together and whatnot. And my wife, my current wife, she was in the vicinity. So, this is something that I strongly suggest is when you're able to get to know somebody that you are potentially interested in indirectly, just pay attention, do so in a way that is informative, that is safe, a safe distance, because my wife was able to achieve that. She got to see how I did relationships with other people, how I navigated friendships, the level of respect, how I handled trials and shifts and whatnot. And interest was building until it was so apparent and so undeniable that there was interest between us. And at
Yeah.
that point, we still wanted to exercise diligence because our conviction was the next person that I'm with is going to be the last person that I'm with, period.
Oh, beautiful.
And therefore, that requires tact. That requires being both safe and being careful with each step that's
Mhm.
taken, especially considering there is a young life that is involved in the situation, a very important young life in the
Mhm.
equation. So it was a slow process, and we did all of the steps that I believe are necessary. And, not to pat myself or us on the back or anything. There were mistakes that we made for sure, but we were so sold on the idea of the drip, the slow introduction into the
Mhm.
life of this young lady. And
How
us,
old how
yeah,
old was, your wife's daughter when
she
you met?
was 4 years old. She may have, when we met, she may have been 3 years old. I believe she was.
Mhm.
But when we got married, she was 5 years old.
Yeah, and did you ever imagine that you would marry someone who already had children? Had that idea crossed your mind?
This was not a thing. This was not something, it's funny because I wasn't necessarily one way or the other. Today, how
Mhm.
people have these like, black and white, this either works or it doesn't. It was a different time. We just either we like each other, we have some respect, we have a lot of things in common, and we can proceed. So it wasn't necessarily something that was on or off my radar. I just wanted a good woman and one that was not too hard on the eyes either, and so that was achieved.
Check, check, and
Check,
she came
check.
with a bonus child,
She did.
and then you're insta-dad.
I'm insta dad. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what surprised you and what you discovered in those
Mm.
early days, months, years of, I mean, those of us who are biological parents, we get to kind of lead up to 4 and 5
Yeah.
years old.
Yeah.
We got to warm up, but,
Yeah.
and you know it's coming, but
Hmm.
boom, there you are. What surprised you?
The amount of insecurity that I had, how
Mhm.
insecure I was, because coming into this dynamic, what it does is it provokes every weakness and potential failing that you may have. And I'll talk specifically about just the presence of another man. To be honest, obviously, I'm coming into this relationship, we're courting each other. I am processing as best I am, counting the cost concerning what it means to be a stepfather, a bonus father. That means that there is going to be another individual that is an outside piece, an important outside piece in our lives, potentially for the rest of our lives.
Well, it
And
typically goes that way. If you
typically,
intertangle your
yeah,
DNA, you better pack a lunch because you're
yeah,
in that forever, right?
yeah,
Graduation to grandbabies and beyond, funerals and weddings. So, no need to blow that up on the way out the door. You're going to need to have some intact. And from what you're telling us, it sounds like your wife's, the father of
yeah,
her daughter, was present in the same
hmm,
town, in the same way. Were they
yeah.
sharing a residential schedule?
Yeah, so there
Okay.
was some custody agreement. I believe at this point it may have been either 60-40 or 50-50, but it was fairly civil, not the most civil. There was a point where there was a phone call that transpired, and this is something to be aware of for those that are either functioning as bonus parents or their bonus parents prospects. Most divorces and separations, things of that nature, they get really ugly, and therefore there's a
Mm.
foundation of dysfunction. So there was a point where she received a phone call, and for close to no reason, he started cursing at her because what he was doing was revisiting the familiarity that's present in that relationship
Yeah.
and the person that he used to talk to. She was no longer, at this point in her life, the person that he knew when they were in a relationship. He was talking to former Margot.
Yeah,
Um,
we recycle these
mm-hmm,
patterns, the
yeah,
patterns of the relationship. Of course, they're going to show up in the divorce. It's the
mm-hmm,
same people
yeah,
with this, and even if we grow and evolve through it, and I hear you saying that about your wife,
mm-hmm,
but the relationship has changed, and you're no longer an intimate, bound partners to each other. Now
yeah,
you're in the business of raising your child together,
yep, yep,
and you're right. He's going to be. Can you go back to this sense of insecurity? I took you
yeah,
down a little rabbit hole. We're going to go all over the
yeah,
place
yeah,
today,
yeah,
Jeremiah, but
100%.
I think this is really relevant. And I don't know if it's more gender based, but well, I don't know.
I do not think it is. I think that again, it's navigating the blended family experience. Experience is, nondescript for a reason. It's because we
Mhm.
all have experience based on our own context. But for me, again, another man being present, there was just something about coming into family. My expectation, while it wasn't concerning whether my wife was going to have a child coming in or not, it was really just the opportunity to serve, to love, and to protect my family without outside influences, to be honest.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was my hope because I had a lot of dysfunction growing up. I had a lot of outside influences that compromised my family. So, what I wanted to do
Mm.
was to lead and protect well. Blended family doesn't really, you can still do that, but please know that there are outside forces that are
Yeah.
very important, like integral in the process. um, there was the provoking of that, the presence of another man, and therefore just lies concerning preferences and things of that nature that she wasn't displaying by any means, but they're just random thoughts that come that are just unfavorable
Hmm.
and unwanted. And then there's the insecurity of connection with the child. Your
Hmm.
stepchildren, your bonus children are going to have preferences. They are. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
They are going to prefer their biological parents. They're going to prefer the person that you are in a dating or marriage relationship with. So when things go bad, they're going to want to run into their laps. When things are exciting and they're really just worked up, they're going to want to run to them. So oftentimes you are not the person, you're not the go-to individual, and it feels as if you're constantly, whether being underlooked, your efforts aren't
Hmm.
really being recognized for what they are, even for how difficult it may be to come to a point where you're making yourself available and vulnerable for this child and in this situation. So it's just this constant, just just a rubbing, just a real, like with sandpaper. You're trying to
Mm.
come with a heart of flesh, and you're met with sandpaper.
Oh,
And you
yeah.
have the opportunity to either get hardened or make the choice to remain soft, knowing that at the opportune time, at the right time, things are going to align as they should.
You talk about, I would use the language kind of the long shadow, like the investment
Yeah.
that you're making as a bonus parent. And
Hmm.
you don't always see the return on that investment in the moment or even within. Say a little bit more about that as a way of kind of hope and perspective for those who are new
Yeah.
into the blender.
Yeah. I am not familiar with gardening. I think one point we attempted to plant some things and it went well. Things came to life. They didn't stay alive for super long. But that's exactly what this process is. You are doing some sowing, you are doing some watering, but the increase, the harvest is not something that takes place immediately. It is something depending on the plant, depending on the seed that you're sowing, depending on the outcome that you aspire toward. Like you are not going to see the fruit of that for quite some time, to be honest. And that's why it is said that it takes about 7 years for the blended family to officially come together, to officially blend.
Wow.
And that's because there are growing pains and processes and learning that needs to transpire on the end of the parents, the children, in order for us to come to this point where things are in sync, not perfectly, but to a
Mhm.
degree of functionality. So the immediate gratification, if you want to just buy your stepchildren parents, if you want to feed them sugar and just satisfy them, cool. You'll see like some really quick fruit, but that is not the fruit that sustains or
Mhm.
that is sustained over time. It just isn't. And what we're aiming for is longevity. And what that requires is
Yes.
the ability to suffer for a long time, like long suffering, patience,
Patience.
forbearance. These are terms that you are going to need to learn because you're going to have to buckle up. It is just going to be, it is
Yeah.
going to be a blessed experience. It very much can be, but it's going to require for you to really take several looks in the mirror concerning who you want to be and what you want the outcome of your family to entail. That's just going to take some patience. And another word for patience is long suffering. What does long
Mm.
suffering mean? The ability to suffer for a long time. Yeah.
I've had a couple of adult children of divorce on the show, and we
Yeah.
typically here always are promoting what it looks like, what it sounds like. We have couples
Hmm.
sit side by side and talk about their divorce and their kids, and they
Yeah.
laugh and they're supportive and they're respectful. But I have heard that at least these two guests I'm thinking about, and I think they're in season 1, they talk about their bonus parents is like very important people in their life. And it sometimes takes until young adulthood and into adulthood. After that
Yeah.
25-year mark, when our full executive function, our full cerebral cortex is come on board and fully
Yep.
formed, and we start to see the world differently. And then if you become a parent yourself, then you really see the world differently,
Yeah.
especially your parents. So it is the long journey.
Yeah.
And kids who also, their bonus siblings have been like, I heard one woman recently saying, like, I don't know where I'd be without my stepbrother. Like, he is my
Mm.
go-to person. He was such a gift of my parents' divorce.
Yeah.
So again, looking through that abundance lens and not necessarily the scarcity lens.
Yeah, 100%. And I can relate to some degree, or at least our family dynamic can relate to what you just said as far as the step sibling. While we don't have that equation, what we do have is my niece, my wife and I have a guardianship
Mhm.
over her. So this is a circumstance where she's also been a part of our family for a bit more than 6 years. An important part of our family, and it did come with some dynamics that relate to step siblings as well. Very
Um,
challenged, especially initially, and learning how to navigate that, how to lead well and tend to all the emotions and everything that is
mm.
being experienced. I have a house, I have 4 daughters, um, house full of women, always been a house full of women, but I look at that relationship right now, and while they're still awkward, 16 and 12-year-old, man, they couldn't imagine living apart from one another and their relationship not being what it is today.
So going back to the family tree,
Yeah.
so you and Mama Mary, she
Hmm.
brings along bonus daughter around age
Yep.
5. Then a
Yeah.
niece comes along.
It's our current 8-year-old. We had our
So
our
you had a
bio child. Yep.
biological child together.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we have a 5-year-old. She's almost 6, and I think she was about to be born. I think it was 2 months prior to my wife giving birth to her that our we got guardianship over our niece, and this was right before the pandemic, I believe,
Hmm.
which was just wild. The whole thing,
Yeah.
absolutely crazy. So, and it happened really quick. Obviously, having a child, a new life, and then guardianship. Like we have this new responsibility because my brother, he ended up going to prison for a few years, and her mother is still on the streets today. So,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, it has been a doozy for sure.
Insta dad times
Insta dad.
10.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how old are all these girls right now as we
Yes.
speak in 2025?
Yeah. So oldest is 6, niece is 12. Then there's the 8-year old gonna be 9 in the next 9 days. And then we have the 5-year-old.
Yep. So there's half siblings in the home,
Yep.
and your eldest daughter, did her dad repartner? That's the question we're actually going to ask after the break.
Mhm.
And we're going to hear how blended family with another blended family who might come with other kids and siblings everywhere. I mean, we're really starting to build quite the family tree. Chatting today with Jeremiah Wallace, who is a bonus dad to 4 daughters, a house full of women. He is also the podcast host of Navigating the Blended Family Experience, helping all families around the country better understand how to have a successful blended family. So stay tuned.
Are you thinking about getting divorced? Before you call a lawyer, call the Good Divorce Coach, Karen McNenny, a certified divorce counselor, co-parenting specialist, and mediator. Karen's signature Good Divorce experience will guide you through your divorce journey, from the day you make that difficult decision to the day the decree is signed, all for a predictable fee. The Good Divorce Coach will teach you and your partner how to get divorced and be divorced with less conflict and less debt. Visit thegooddivorcecoach.com to get in touch with Karen.
Now, back to the show with Karen.
Thanks so much for staying here on the Good Divorce Show. Today we are talking with Jeremiah Wallace, really focusing in on the blended family dynamic. What happens after the divorce? It's not stagnant. These families don't just kind of get frozen in time across two households. There are other people, these shadow figures, which I mean from the light, and bonus parents, siblings, half siblings, step siblings, they all start to grow. So today we are asking Jeremiah, who has been a stepdad for 10 years and also hosts the podcast Navigating the Blended Family Experience, to give us a little insight into his private, precious story and what his family tree looks like. Welcome back to the show, Jeremiah.
Thanks for having me. Hey, first portion, wonderful. It only
Yo,
gets better from here, I'm sure.
yeah. So we've heard a little bit about your nuclear household and who's there and how that's grown through guardianship of your niece, your bonus daughter that came in the package with your wife, and two biological daughters
Yeah,
that your wife and you have added to the family. So this daughter, though, that brought you into fatherhood,
yeah,
she has another father. She has
she
her
does.
biological father and perhaps another family tree on that side of her garden.
Yeah.
What does that look like, and how does it impact your family home? We're going to dive into both. So first, give us a picture.
Yeah, so that portion has evolved over time as far as how her father has engaged in relationships. And unfortunately, initially, while she was younger, and this was in part contribute a contributing factor to the separation between my wife and him when they were younger. And
Right,
that
and not
being
married,
not
but
married.
had a child together. It's still a bonded partnership, right?
Exactly.
Bonded relationship. Mhm.
Exactly. But there were just a series of relationships, and this impacted my stepdaughter. And that is why my wife, when they were again together, made the decision that she made. But this proceeded even after we entered into a marriage relationship. And
Mhm.
what it did essentially is it was a revolving door of individuals in her life, and that created attachment issues, so that she would get attached to this one lady, she would grow close to her, and then all of a sudden she's gone, absent of context. And that's one of the worst parts about it.
Oh, the
Without the opportunity,
disappeared.
disappeared. And my
No
wife, she,
closure. And
yeah,
these were partners that her father was
yes,
kind of cycling through relationships.
yeah,
And when the grown up is cycling through relationship, the child is also cycling through those relationships.
100%.
And you might have had the big blow up in the parking lot, the phone call, the breakup, all the reasons, and said your goodbyes in whatever way, but it's like a disappear. We refer to this as ambiguous loss.
Yeah,
And it's very hard, especially as a young person, but for any of us to negotiate ambiguous loss. Divorce also falls into the same category.
yeah,
When we can manage the loss and the closure, that's one thing. But individuals who've lost family members to war and maybe their bodies haven't been recovered, or in a recreational accident on a mountain in a river, when we
yeah,
don't have closure. And divorce is that weird place too, where you're gone, we're done, I'm grieving. Oh, but I have to text you every day about where are the soccer cleats and who's doing the carpool.
yeah,
So we live in these two worlds. And so
hmm,
that child who's living in both homes of their world, these people who are cycling through, and as you say, when they don't get to say goodbye, there's not an ending, that can really, really impact, as you said, their attachment
yeah.
styles and their mental health.
Yep, 100%. And fortunately, we're able to recognize this. It's not something that you can necessarily have the authority to speak into. You
Right.
can probably do some insinuating concerning how it may be affecting the child, but the primary reason there's even a connection that exists is for the sake of raising the child. It's not so that I can tell you how to live your life,
Right.
ultimately. So, um,
So what does it look like on dad's tree now?
Right now, there is some consistency. Again, with age, getting a little older, the series of relationships is just, it gets more unrealistic, fortunately. So there, it has been a
Any
set.
any other children?
There are, yeah. I'm not sure how old the oldest is. I think about 3 years old, potentially, maybe closer to four. And then there's a younger one. I think she's within a year, and so a
Mhm.
bit more recent. And that relationship, it's been consistent. However, they're living in separate places, so it's a little strange. The foundation gives off instability, and yet it remains. Not always when she goes over there every other week is she able to see her siblings, or her half siblings, or her dad's partner, but
Mhm.
there is some consistency that exists. So those relationships are there.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like your house is the consistency for that
Yeah,
child.
absolutely.
And one good, solid, consistent parent is enough.
Hmm.
We like two, but one is enough. And what we're really striving for is good enough parenting. We're not going to be perfect parents. We're going to
Yeah,
wound our children. We're going to get it wrong, whether we're married or unmarried. This is the journey of childhood. And then we spend our adult life trying to unravel the wounds of our childhood, the
yeah,
traumas, the stories, the family of origin baggage that comes along with us. But it sounds like you're creating a beautiful world of consistency for all four of your daughters. What a gift.
yeah. And I fortunately we're in a great position to do a bit of that unraveling or providing
Yeah.
context now. And that's one of our favorite parts about the role that we play in the lives of our children, especially the older two, considering the things that they've gone through and the things that they go through, because they are
Mhm.
still exposed to these environments and often individuals that they love deeply, but they
Yeah.
exude dysfunction and inconsistency, to be
Right.
honest. There
Yeah.
isn't always the promise of, hey, I'm going to pick you up. That is not always followed through, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And what we can do is sit down and empathize, not bash, and then we can provide a bit of context. We can even give them insight as far as how they're being affected
Yep.
and what some of those outcomes, how that, what that may look like. Why do you think that you feel you are more comfortable to fall apart in this environment than you are in that one? You feel like, I doubt that there's even been an objection, or let alone an emotional explosion when
Mhm.
you're on that side of the family. That's because
It's
there's
not
already
safe.
it's not safe. There's already disorder, there's already inconsistency. Therefore, you have to assume this posture of stability, and therefore you're bearing the weight
Mhm.
of dysfunction to a degree. But here, where things are safe, you're falling all over the place. I'm just
Mhm.
like, who do you think you're talking to right now? And that's just because you have room to fail.
Yes, and to have big emotions because it is an emotionally safe environment.
Yeah,
I'm curious, Jeremiah, if you could do some training, if you
mhm,
will, to the biological fathers out there
yeah,
who are going to have a Jeremiah Wallace walk into their life. A good man, a loving man, a solid man, someone who is going to love the mother of their shared child.
yeah,
What advice, do's and don'ts, would
yeah,
you give to those biological fathers to help in the world of the blender?
yeah, 100%. What I would suggest is inserting yourself in a way that is respectful and that considers your child first and foremost in all decisions that you're making. Because again, they are central. They become the connection point for a conversation or an interaction taking place, even to begin with. It's not your ex, it's your child now.
Yeah.
That's the intersection. So, because you love them, because you care about them, it is important for you to approach this new individual not with a defensiveness, because that is oftentimes not going to serve your child. If you're right off the bat like a rabid dog and a mailman's coming up and you just want to, it's intruder, we're barking, like my first instinct is get rid of him. That is not going to serve your child. Ultimately, it can actually do some major damage as it
Mhm.
affects your ex, who then affects your child. Maybe this is a good man. And fortunately, I can say we're almost at our 11-year anniversary. And I can say at this point, I'm a good man.
Yeah.
Take my scenario, for instance. Let's suggest, or, let's assume he means well. You can approach him respectfully. Hey, this is who I am. And who are you? Who are you? Like,
Be
let me
curious.
just be curious. Who are you?
Yeah.
What is, like, not entirely about the relationship, not just like, what's your background? What have you been through? Can you look this man in the eye? Does he shake your hand firmly? Does he speak to you respectfully? And if you can approach again the situation with safety, with care, but an assertion as well, like knowing, hey, I'm not going anywhere. I want to know, or if you're going anywhere, you can
Yeah.
read these things as a result of that interaction. Stay present, stay available so that you can be exactly who you need to be for your child. But if you take
Mm.
either the passive role and you're hurt by the fact that your ex is looking into another relationship, is now connected with somebody else, harm will be done. Or if you take the opposite end, you're on the opposite end of the spectrum and you're just like, whoever it is, I don't like them. It is going to harm your child. It's not going to serve this process that is almost guaranteed to happen in some capacity. It's better for you to be in the know than for information to be hidden from you because you're not a safe place.
Yeah, absolutely. And this idea of starting from a place of curiosity. I always say curiosity before criticism.
Hmm.
We're so quick to write a story before the story's even been written,
Yeah.
right? In our brain and what we're deciding. So it sounds like, to boil down your advice is if you are the biological parent looking into a new relationship starting, to go into it with curiosity, have an
Hmm.
open heart, and the possibility that this new member of your family, because that's what is happening, could be wildly beneficial,
Hmm.
right? Start with the assumption of positivity and
Yeah.
not negativity. Now let's flip the coin from that person and how they welcome the Jeremiah into their life. But how do you, especially because you have your own children in the home and you have a stepchild in the home who has another parent and these like all your kids, my kids, how do we discipline? How do we celebrate? Like,
Yeah.
what is your role to dad? And is it different amongst these four girls?
Uh,
Or do you put on your dad hat and drive?
yeah. And, because again, it's an experience. It is nuanced. It is very different concerning what custody looks like right now for us. I mentioned the 50-50 before. That's not the case now
Mhm.
because of the father of my stepdaughter. He didn't have the capacity to do it anymore.
Yep.
And therefore that required us to transition. I can't recall the percentage right now, but it's every other weekend.
Yep.
And then
About
for
97%.
just about, yep.
And
And
3% for the other parent,
yeah, and for
maybe more.
our niece as well, it's pretty much the same scenario. So we're fortunately in a position where we can provide that consistency, that foundation. And this has been the case for a sustained period of time, a significant period of time. It's not always the case in the blended family. Often there is that 50-50. Oftentimes there is the changing of circumstances. What we've tried to do and made one of our greatest efforts is to create a sustainable environment and circumstances so that they are not subject to the winds and waves of change and parents being, children oftentimes. But as far as operating as a father, it's pretty consistent across the board. I mean, my intention is to teach them about who they are, to love them according to their unique giftings, strengths, abilities, desires, and needs. And I also want to give them an example first and foremost of a loving marriage relationship.
Yes.
Before I am a parent, I am a husband. I prioritize my relationship with my wife before my parenting relationship because my ability to parent and who these children will be, a part of their foundation, an important part of that will be the illustration of the relationship between myself and my wife and their
It's
mother.
beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And it is. We hope that these children of divorce somewhere along the line really get to see a beautiful, loving, healthy, vibrant relationship as modeling
Yeah,
for their own, so they know what to look for in their life.
exactly.
So all those girls will be out looking for their own version of a Jeremiah Wallace.
Yes, they and my 5-year-old, she's often saying, "Hey, we're getting married." And I'm just like, "Babe, that's not how it works." But it's just like that's one of the highest compliments. I think it
Yeah.
was almost a year ago, my 8-year-old, she was just talking to mom, and my mom is a big recorder. Whenever the girls are doing something, saying something, she's so sneaky with pulling up the phone.
Yeah.
But she was just saying, the person I marry, I want him to be, I want to be like dad,
Yeah.
and listing all these traits. And that is one of the highest compliments. And it's something that happens not because I'm so good. It really does have a lot to do with loving them well and then just being consistent.
Yep. So, where do people just botch it? Before we wrap up this conversation, I want
Yeah.
to hear on both sides, the biological parent, the non-residential parent from where you're at, and the step parent, and like just where do people get it wrong?
I am big on people doing their homework. I'm all about the pre-work. What does courtship look like? What did it look like during your off season when you were either single or you were a single parent? As I mentioned, my wife, she had a year of being just a single mother and an expectation to remain in that state for a
Mhm.
significant period of time. For me, I hadn't been in a relationship for years, and that allowed for us to come to that point, that place where
Mhm.
we were like, hey, next person I'm with is the last person. However, when people are going from relationship to relationship, when people are coming out of a divorce or a separation and they are enthralled by this individual that's come along and they're cute, they're affirming them, they're saying the things that their spouse or their significant other didn't say, and all of a sudden they're just in this
You get swept
whirlwind.
up.
Exactly. They just get so wrapped up and therefore they don't take the proper steps that will allow for them to whether recognize the red flags that exist in them, the insecurities that either have been there or have been produced as a result of a divorce, nor then are they able to recognize the landmines that are present in a potential courtship scenario.
Sure.
Like this guy or this girl clearly, unquestionably don't care about my child. They want me. They just want me. That is a huge red flag.
Yep.
In that season of life, you have to make yourself a priority for sure, but your child has to be your highest
Yep.
priority immediately after a divorce. Like they just have to be.
So beyond like how we get it right in our new
Yeah,
relationships,
yeah.
how do we get it right? Well, where do people screw up when they're blending
When
families?
they're in it.
When they're in it. And now
Yeah.
we've got step parents and biological parents, and a child is there in that home and then come, which is not necessarily your story right
Mhm.
now, but you talk to lots of people. And I'm
Yes.
sure you've heard, the cautionary tale of overparenting, underparenting,
Hmm.
stepping in your wrong lane. Like what are the cautions
Yeah.
that you would give to all of our listeners who are facing an integration into one house in a blended family, or believe that someday, or they're already in it? Where are the landmines?
Absolutely. And I alluded to it earlier, but what are you prioritizing when you are in your relationship? And I think it's different. I honestly think it's different when you are dating versus when you're married. When you're married, you're communicating, hey, this is a lifelong thing. It's a different, it needs to be said that it's a different thing when we just move in together and our
Mhm.
contract with one another is kind of vague. Yes, we may share some things, some assets and whatnot, but like get clear on where you are in your relationship. Who is this person to you? Your child must be informed as far as who this individual is to them. Like clarity is key, and that obviously requires communication. So there should be no questions that are off limits. There are no subjects that can't be addressed between the two of you, and in some way, shape, and form, those same issues should be addressed with the child as well.
And I would add age appropriate language,
Age
age
appropriate.
appropriate information.
Exactly.
Grown up
Exactly.
things stay in the grown up closet. But
100%.
absolutely, when we can inform our kids, again, it releases anxiety. They have less questions and less unknowns.
Yes. And to
That
the
is
point where
beautiful.
during our process, we even sat down with her. We were at a park. She was sitting in a swing. We have a picture of it. Like I said, my wife is a stalker. She just takes pictures. But I asked her, "What do you want to call me? Like, what do
Oh,
you who?"
yeah.
And
Beautiful.
it's just those baby steps that show a respect and allow for this information to sit and settle in their hearts and minds so that they can assume the role as you assume the role. But you
Mm,
begin to operate in that first. There's just too much vagueness. There's too much gray area. There's so many, like, the pitfalls often come from a lack of clarity as a result of a lack of addressing really, really, really important subjects. So, as far as the pitfalls, the missteps, they are going to come about as a result of a lack of communication or
mhm.
ignoring matters that should not be ignored. When a red flag pops up, hey, like, it's not like, oh, I'm going to run. We're not going to do the
No.
avoidant attachment of, hey, you did one bad thing, therefore you are my ex and I'm out of here.
Yeah.
What you do is you sit down and say, hey, there's this thing that you did. And it kind of, I don't know. I just want to ask you, what was that about? Why did that happen? What does it stem from? And then you can process it together. But if you are unable to process it for whatever reason, then at that point you have information and further context concerning how you proceed forward. And you were going to say something.
Well, I love just this moment of, asking the child, how do you want to address me? Not
Hmm.
just kind of waiting and nobody knows, like you said, like being clear, like leaning into it. We're not going to pretend that this isn't going to be a deal.
Yeah.
It's a deal.
Yep.
And a lot of times through the good divorce experience, we'll talk about where are the areas where we can do it with the kids, not to the kids.
Exactly.
So, what did you and your stepdaughter come up with?
Yeah, I gave her a ton of different options, but she landed on Papa.
She calls you Papa.
She calls me Papa, and she's been calling me Papa for the last 12 years.
And what does she call her birth father?
She calls him Dad.
Yep. So she is
Absolutely.
dad and Papa. And your other daughters in your home? What
Yeah,
do they call you?
it's a combination. It's a daddy, it's Papa, it's
Mhm.
Papacito whenever I bust out a salsa.
Yeah.
And it just a number of names, but it's really important for all of our girls to feel as if they are, I'll say, a Wallace. They're part of the family.
Yeah.
I know they
Team
may have
Wallace.
different, the oldest, she does have a different last name, but you need to know you're a Wallace. Like, I am
Hmm.
raising you as such, and this is not something that
Yeah.
changes, whether because of your last name or what's going on the other end.
And how does your niece refer to you?
She also refers to me as Papa.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. Language really matters.
it does.
We're not broken homes. We're not broken families. We're just families that live across homes. The
Yeah.
marriage is different than the family. The
Hmm.
marriage broke, the marriage dissolved, that ended, but the relationship between these parents never ends. And
Yeah.
the family, that garden, as you've demonstrated today, lots of, maybe it's an orchard and there's a lot
Hmm.
of family trees, and
Yeah.
our little juicy oranges of children and apples, they move from tree to tree, and some have more sun, some have more shade, some are bigger, some are smaller, and to be really thoughtful about their experience
Yeah.
when they are moving between homes. It's not something that the parents typically have to do unless they choose nesting, but it's a big shift to move between habitat.
It's
When I
giant.
visit friends in Alaska and then I go visit my friends in Florida, it's wildly different. I got to pack different. I am going to behave different. My
Yeah.
days are going to be different.
100%.
It's the same thing between our homes.
Yeah.
Jeremiah, as we wrap up our really rich conversation today, what do you want to leave our listeners with as they think about the Blenders Club?
Yeah. I would say that you're valuable. I want you to know that regardless of what stage you're at, whether you are a bonus parent, whether you are a biological parent, you are in the midst of a divorce or you're well on the other side of it, it's important for you to know that you as an individual are significant. Not
Mhm.
everything and everybody has to come before you. That is just so important. Obviously, there are nuances in life and the way in which things should be navigated, but at the end of the day, you are an important individual. So as you know that, you can work from that, you can serve from that, you can love from that posture. And then we get a little harsh. You learn to be an unoffendable person.
Yeah.
Just, you know, you should aspire toward being unoffendable, because if you get to that point where you are quick to forgive people, if you are extending the benefit of the doubt constantly, even toward those that are clearly functioning as adversaries toward you, not only creates freedom for yourself, but it creates freedom for your children to actually be children, because they will be burdened by the things that you're burdened by, whether consciously or subconsciously. So just know that you're valuable. Aspire toward being an unoffendable person, someone who is free and quick to
Mm.
forgive others as well as yourself. And man, it'll be a blessing.
Oh, that is just such beautiful words coming to us today from Jeremiah Wallace, professional stepfather. He's
Come on.
got 10 years under his belt. And a really beautiful story that you've shared with us today, and the things that you've learned in chatting with your guests on your podcast, Navigating the Blended Family Experience. Thank you so much, Jeremiah, for being here.
Of course, it was awesome. Appreciate you, Karen.
And listeners, I want to congratulate you for taking time to be a student of your life and to learn how to be a more high functioning family. Regardless of what your family tree looks like, we can all learn. And when I think it's Miss Maya Angelou, when we know better, we do better.
Mhm.
So thanks for hanging out here with me, Karen McNenny, your good divorce your good divorce coach here on the Good Divorce Show. And I just want to remind you, everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
Thanks for listening. Do you have questions or thoughts about this week's episode? Let us know by following the Good Divorce Coach on Facebook and Instagram at Good Divorce Coach, and leave a comment. And be sure to tune in every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific, or listen anytime wherever you get your podcasts.